Chapter 4 of The Problem Club. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Matt Bounds. The Problem Club by Barry Payne. Chapter 4. The Win and Lose Problem. At the 46th meeting of the Problem Club, the waiters having left the room, Mr. Matthews, smiling and rubicund, took his place as chairman. He finished his glass of an old and veritable cognac, lit with care and a cedarwood spill, a cigar that can only be obtained by the favor of the planter, and read out the terms of the win and lose problem. It is required to win an even bet of £1, resulting in a net loss of £1 to the winner, and to lose an even bet of £1, resulting in a net gain of £1 to the loser. No competitor is to make more than 2 bets. Well, gentlemen, said Mr. Matthews, I'm supposed to make 1 or 2 preliminary observations. Now, here's a thing that strikes me. You may remember that when we tackled the kiss problem, our reverend friend Mr. Cunliffe said that it revealed the artful Leonard as an apostle of morality. Of course, the Padre took the jackpot on that occasion, and so he may have been prejudiced, but it looks to me now as if he may have been right. See for yourselves. You've got to win a bet and lose money by it, and then you've got to lose a bet and make money by it. And at the end of it, you've left just where you were when you started. There's not much deadly fascination and excitement about that. Why, it's enough to make you lose your taste for gambling. Yes, and there's one more point. I noticed a great deal of preoccupation at dinner tonight. Very few of you seem to be putting your heart into the work. I believe I was the only man who had the vol au vent brought back to him for further reference. Great mistake, that of yours. Some of you tried to work out sums on the back of your menus. I detected Major Biles with corrugated brows in the act of making pencil calculations on the tablecloth. Yes, there's not a doubt that Leonard has given you a worrying time, and some of you are wrestling with it right up to the last moment. It won't surprise me if there's not a winner among the whole lot of you. However, we'll begin with a likely chance. You, Sir Charles, have got a reputation as a learned man. Can I ask the secretary to draw a cheque in your favour? I'd be sorry to stop you, said Sir Charles, but I'm afraid I can't claim it. Archaeology don't help with arithmetic. As an eminent classical scholar once observed, I've not got the low cunning that makes a mathematician. The only thing I could think of was to insure the chances of each bet appropriately. But it seemed to me that you would regard such insurance as being in itself a bet. I certainly should. You don't change a thing by changing its name. You are limited to the 2 bets, and I shall not allow 4, even if you call 2 of them insurance. Come now, Jimmy. Have you profited sufficiently by your racing experiments to have won the prize tonight? Profited by my racing experiences, said the Honourable James Feldane wearily. If you'd go and talk to the bank that has charge of my overdraft, you wouldn't use words like those. But backing horses, though it's a mug's game, is at any rate easy. There are too many complications in Leonard's fancy work for a simple child of nature like myself. I can't engineer a 2-cylinder gamble with a double back jump actuated by the camshaft. The only man I know who could face it without mental overstrain is my bookmaker. He's a wonder. He'll give you 15 different ways of perforating this problem inside a minute. No juggle with figures can beat him. I don't know if you'd call it a talent or a disease, but I've not got it. As a competitor, I've failed, but I don't mind admitting that I've made a little actual money out of the competition. Jimmy smiled reminiscently. May we have the details? Asked the chairman. I'd sooner you got them from Heseltine. The chairman called upon Mr. Heseltine. I don't wonder, said the young man, that Jimmy don't like to tell you. If I'd stolen money from a crossing sweeper in St. James Street, I shouldn't be proud of it myself. The silly ass thinks he scored off me, but as I was out to lose a quid anyhow— May we have the actual facts? Suggested the chairman. Certainly. I was thinking about this problem, and I got a sudden brainwave. I saw how to do the first half, to win a bet of £1 that would leave me £1 down when I'd won it. Well, I happened to be going up St. James Street with Jimmy later that morning, and by way of leading up to it, I asked him what he generally gave a street beggar. Nix, he said. What do you? So I told him that I generally gave a sovereign. He told me in his coarse sort of way that he didn't believe it. That was what I had expected. All right, I said, I'll bet you £1 that I give 2 golden sovereigns to the next beggar or crossing sweeper I come across. He thought about it, and then said, I'll take that, and to guard against accidents, I'll be the next beggar. Give me a little assistance, kind sir. Of course, in that way he put himself on velvet. Whether I decided to win my bet or to lose it, Jimmy had to make 1 sovereign out of me. Didn't affect me at all, for according to Leonard, I'd got to win my bet and lose £1 by it, which I did. The only person hit was the crossing sweeper up the street, who would otherwise have made £2. Of course, what I ought to have done was to have handed Jimmy over to the police for begging. Wish I thought of it. Well, I negotiated the first half of the problem, but the second half beat me. I'm inclined to think the sting of the beast is in its tail. It takes 2 people to make a bet. I'm not a poet or any sort of imaginative chap, but I could think of a bet which for a dead certainty it would pay me to lose. I couldn't think of anybody, even including that rotter Jimmy, who would be fool enough to take it. You must try somebody else, Mr. Chairman. Major Byles, the chairman suggested. As a head waiter, said the major, I've got nothing against Leonard. As a setter of problems, he's given general satisfaction. But this time I should like to back my bill to the effect that he has mixed up too much arithmetic with the sport. I've spent a good month on this win and lose business, all the time with the feeling that a boy fresh from school would work out the whole thing on the back of an envelope in 10 minutes. And I've done nothing. I spent the first fortnight at home, and at the end of it I had contracted insomnia, headache, and what you might call pardonable irritability. At the end of that time my wife said that of course she had noticed the change, and that I seemed to be doing sums all day, and that if we were ruined I'd better say so and she would face it bravely. I reassured her and came to town on important business. I used tons of the club notepaper for my calculations, put an undue strain on the club wastepaper baskets, quarrelled with 2 of my best friends, was sarcastic in addressing the club servants, and am expecting a letter from the committee to ask for my resignation. The amazing thing is that all the time I have been on the very point of getting the solution. In my opinion, it's the most horribly worrying thing that Leonard has ever given us. Well, said the chairman, artists are not generally supposed to be particularly strong at arithmetic, but I'll ask Mr. Wildersley what he's done about it. Can't say I agree with the major, said Wildersley. I call it a jolly easy problem, and I claim to be a winner. Didn't take me any time to think of it, neither. I got a man into my studio to see alleged works of art, and I said to him that I would bet him £1, I would give him £2. He took me. You've lost, I said, pay up, and then I'll pay up. He handed me a sovereign, and I handed him £2 of potatoes in a paper bag. So I'd won £1 in money, and lost £2 in potatoes. If you win £1 and lose 2, that makes a net loss of £1 on the transaction, and so I'd done the first half of the problem. The chap seemed to be grumbling rather. What's the matter with you? I said. The greengrocer told me they were the kind he eats himself, and that he could guarantee them. I don't want the beastly potatoes, he said. The whole thing's a dirty swindle. I thought he'd say that, so I told him it was no swindle, and I'd be willing to take the same bet myself. He jumped at it, but to make sure, he said he would bet me a sovereign he would give me £2. I took him, lost, paid the sovereign, and got back my £2 of potatoes. That finished the second half of the problem. I'd lost a bet of £1 and had made £2, giving the net gain of £1. Naturally, he wanted to know what I had done it for. I said it was to stop him from trying to talk about art. The chap's a critic. Mr. Matthews took 2 minutes and a brandy and soda before giving his decision as follows. Ingenious, but it won't do. Mr. Wildersley professes to have subtracted money to the value of a sovereign from £2 by weight of potatoes, and to have got a result of £1. Of what does that pound consist? Even after dinner we can't have mental confusion of this kind. The claim is disallowed. Mr. Harding Pope, MP, made an uninteresting confession of failure, and the chairman then called upon Mr. Quillian, K.C., who was acting as secretary for the evening. Mr. Quillian removed his pince-nez and glanced around the room with that look of amiable superiority that some people find irritating. I claim to have won this fairly simple competition, he said. Of course, it has a psychological as well as an arithmetical side. The bets have to be actually made and not merely worked out on paper. I made my plan one afternoon, and then went over to my club to see if I could find my friend Blenkinsop. He is generally at the club at that hour, and I felt sure that he would accept the 2 bets that I had to propose. Well, as it happened, Blenkinsop was not at the club, but I found Mr. Pusely Smythe alone in the smaller reading room. I've had to submit to a good deal of chaff, not particularly amusing, from Pusely Smythe, and by way of return it seemed appropriate that he should help me to win our £110 prize. Also, if he will forgive me for saying so, he has just the commonplace shrewdness that I required in my victim. After a little preliminary conversation, I produced my sovereign case. I told him that there was a certain sum of money in gold in that case, and that I was willing to bet him a sovereign I would make him a present of it. He said, as I knew he would, that this meant that the sum of money in the case was half a sovereign, and that in consequence he would lose 10 shillings on the transaction if he took the bet. Yes, I said, there is that possibility, but I am willing to protect you against it by a second bet. We will agree that the loser by the first transaction shall have the option to give the other man double what he has lost for double the sum now in my sovereign case. And I will bet you a sovereign that he will not exercise that option. You see how it works out. If the sum in my sovereign case is half a sovereign, as you suppose, you will lose 10 shillings on the first transaction, but you will win a sovereign on the second transaction by exercising an option to exchange 20 shillings for 20 shillings. Without taking the time to think, he accepted both bets. I then opened my sovereign case and showed him that it contained £2. I gave them to him, and as, by so doing, I had won my bet, he gave one of them back again. Kindly observe that I had now solved the first part of Leonard's problem. I had won an even bet of £1, the net result of which was that I had lost £1. Having made myself the loser on the first transaction, I now had the option to exchange twice my loss against twice the sum that had been in the sovereign case. That is, to exchange £2 for £4. I had bet that the loser would not exercise this option. I lost the bet and exercised the option. Thus, I lost an even bet of £1 with the net result that I made £1. This settles the second half of the problem. I await, sir, with confidence, your decision in my favour. Mr. Matthews referred once more to the terms of the problem. Yes, he said, it seems to me that you have met all Leonard's requirements. Very smart bit of work, in my opinion. You take the club cheque for £110, unless, of course, some claim to share it with you is substantiated. Is there any such claim? Naturally, there's mine, said Pusely Smythe, with his deceptive air of melancholy. Yours? How did you do it? My learned friend has just been telling you. I was going away for a brief and well-earned holiday, and I had decided to give the competition a miss this time. As I was sitting in the club studying a guidebook, in came Quillian, looking like a thimble-rigger who had just set up his little plush-covered table. He offered me his first bet. I put it aside. He offered the second, and he says I didn't take time to think. Thought with me does not take the prolonged period of gestation that it does in the case of the nobler animals, such as KCs. I thought 2 thoughts. The first was that Quillian was out after this competition. The second was that when 2 men gamble together, what one wins the other loses, and vice versa. That was enough. I took him. He won the first bet, but lost £1 by it. It follows that I lost the first bet, but won £1 by it. Similarly, when he lost the bet, but won £1, I won the bet, and lost £1. It's all very simple and elementary. I hope he's going to make a victim of me again soon. This time, without any effort on my part, he has shoved £55 at me. I have only had to take it. And I don't care whether it was benevolence or mental short-sightedness, I'm going to thank him just the same. The claim's allowed, of course, said the chairman. The thing that makes me mad is that I didn't see it myself until you pointed it out. It's obvious. It simply shrieks at you. My mind must be going. The menu that you devised for our dinner tonight, sir, said Pusely Smythe, was sufficient proof of the contrary. Those that study the recondite must sometimes find the obvious out of their focus. Thank you, said Mr. Matthews. I'll learn the last sentence by heart. It'll make a ripping excuse next time I do a damn silly thing. Cheques were drawn for Quillian and Pusely Smythe, and the chairman then opened the envelope containing the problem that Leonard had set for the following month. It was titled The Handkerchief Problem, and on the face of it scarcely supported the theory that the ingenious Leonard was a great moral teacher. The Honourable James Feldane was reminded that it would be his duty to preside on the next occasion, and to adjudicate on this problem, which was as follows. It is required to steal as many handkerchiefs as possible from a member or members of the Problem Club. Violence may not be used, and thefts detected in the act will not score. Restitution will be made of the stolen handkerchiefs within 24 hours of the adjudication, but felonious intent is to be presumed in every case. Rotten luck, said Feldane to his friend Heseltine. I should have enjoyed working on this problem. It appeals to my natural instincts. I should probably have won it, and in that case might have given 1 or 2 of them something on account. And so this has to be the occasion when I'm shut out of the competition and have to act as chairman. Yes, said Heseltine. Nobody's so sure of himself as the non-starter. End of chapter 4.